Thank you. I will give a slight history and in a way how our program would be similar to many of the programs, and this may be for students, it may be for staff, it may be for other faculty. This program we've traveled to Japan 3 times. The first was in 2019, and then 2023, and then 2024, with the interruption being because of COVID. And under challenge, I would argue the challenge that anyone may be interested in a program or starting a program is a bit just the challenge of the unknown. And if I go back to 2019, and let me relate it to architecture very quickly. It's a hand-in-glove relationship. There's no question study abroad and architecture are kind of meant for each other because we can go and see buildings by noteworthy architects in other parts of the world and see what they do that is both similar to what we do, but also what's different than what we do. And we then obviously learn from that. And so the challenge of the unknown is simply beginning the process. And of course, there's much help here from the staff, and that is fantastic. But in 2019, partly maybe because of my own ignorance, but also my own desires, I took it upon myself to organize everything, right? Now the university doesn't like that, and I can understand that because it's a part of being careful, right? But what I'm trying to relate to is how you get through the unknown, right? And so a couple of things that I'll stay and then move away from is, Airbnb and Google Earth are great sources, right? In Airbnb, in the beginning, I was doing the logistics. Now we have logistic providers, and so that actually makes the unknown easier, right? So in a way, you move forward from what was starting in that regard. I'm referencing Airbnb. It may or may not relate to some of the other programs, but we had issues of where we're going, and buildings are scattered around different countries, different prefectures, different cities, obviously. Sometimes they're not even in cities, and so we have travel logistic issues. And so there's a lot of those kind of characteristics that you have to be aware of and just accommodate, right? We tracked ourselves with our phones and all that, and we logged about 240 miles of walking in the 25 days or so that we were there. And so I'm trying to say that because you don't know in this regard just what might be ahead of you. Now, for some, you might be going to conferences, you might be going to pre-established destinations. We, in our desire to see different architectural outcomes by different architects, we're motivated to go to find these places and to see these places. And so it's a testament to the students. It's a testament to what the university allows. We weren't shackled in any real way, and I say that in this regard. We would start our program about mid-May here in Houston, and we'd have classes for a couple of weeks. And then we would leave typically around June 1, and we'd be traveling about Japan through June 20 through June 24, 25. Students would then have a week approximately to travel on their own. Then we would reconvene here around July 4th, let's just say, and then we would have another month or 5 weeks when we'd come back. So we would go from mid-May to mid-August, and particularly at the end of August, no one was particularly excited about starting the fall semester in August 23rd or whatever. But to the students' credit, and I think to the value of these programs, they all bought into it. And so I'm saying that mainly just to give everyone a perspective that while the unknowns may be out there, they're typically overcomable. Now there's, again, a kind of a great integrated staff scenario, and so that helps in many ways. A lot of information to overcome any anxieties that anyone might have. And so I just want to support the staff. I want to support the programs because I believe in study abroad. And I think people come back with a different mindset, and that, I think, is the outcome we all kind of want. So I'll give you a little description without trying to get into the weeds too much. I'm just trying to talk about our program a little bit. There was a conversation I had I think it was with Stacy, but in the end it was talking about ROI, return on investment. Many years ago in our program, we had just one class offering, which is a design studio, which is the main studio in the various 5 years, which is the College of Architecture program. And students were saying, that's a lot of money for of one course credit. So we modified that to where now they have 3 course credits. And so yet you take on a lot, and of course the courses are set up different because you're gone for whatever number of weeks you might be gone. But I want to lobby and in a way thank the university for allowing these, because I think, again, the return on investment in terms of a mental, emotional, cultural, all those kind of things we could say, is so much greater than if we miss an article or we miss reading a particular chapter in a book or whatever it might be that we don't get done. The takeaways are so much greater. So I'm saying that just as an encouragement to anyone who might be considering. This is, now I will go quickly through this. What I'm just going to get at is give you some images of what we've seen, right? So you can begin to kind of see what might be captivating, and I won't spend time on all of these, but I want to go and describe our program slightly. We have 3 courses. One is a history and theory, and you can see just by some of the keywords I've put in there in terms of what we're trying to do, but it's the idea of being able to see a kind of we're interested in contemporary architecture, there's no question about that, and yet it would be wrong to go to another world, another part of the world, and not really try and understand their culture. So we do that, right? So we have a kind of a history theory course that's one of the components of the class. We also have an elective, which is really more tailored to the design studio outcomes, but it's, as you can see by the title, Constructed Assemblies, it's really trying to look into the components that make up a building, and whether it's a porch, as you see on the left, a kind of a grand space and a kind of unusual roof. If you look there just a bit to your right, the older assemblies where they literally would use rope to tie things together. All of these kind of are interesting, kind of a contemporary take on some of that at the end. Yeah. Our project was a chapel. It was a non-denominational chapel. We had non-denominational chapels. We had Christian chapels. We had Muslim chapels. We had Jewish temples. All of this, so the students were able to sort of activate their own kind of interest in faith and begin to kind of look at that. And so these are just examples that you see. But we wouldn't just focus on those, and so you're seeing here the image on the left is a building in a college campus, a museum, a street scene in Kyoto. And so we're looking around. Of course, we're traveling, and we have many destinations, but I'm just trying to link in kind of the cultural aspects so you can see here Hiroshima, and this is a contemporary monument to the dead in Hiroshima, and Nagasaki, right? And so you can kind of see kind of the different kind of outcomes of some of these kind of more eventful, monumental kind of scenarios. We would also travel. These are from Katsura, which is an imperial villa in Kyoto. So we're just trying to. Japanese garden design is as valuable and incredible as kind of their architectural design. So we're trying to link a number of events together. But it is a studio, right? It is that. And so I just want to show you some of the outcomes there. You can see the cities we went to. We basically were gone, I think, 25 days, and approximately about 12 or 13 are all the cities other than Tokyo, and then the last was in Tokyo. And so just to give a logistics of how you might get around, we would have bases in Tokyo, became kind of a home base for sometimes travel away from Tokyo. And so we were constantly on the move, more so this past semester than in some of the previous semesters. It wasn't really a challenge, though, I will say, the ability to use phones. And so, again, if any of you would be interested in programs where you're moving about a bit, the phones are incredible. The students are incredible. They work them better than I do. There's no question about that. But we would, groups of 11 to 14, you can't believe how crowded it can get in kind of the underground subway situations in Tokyo, and you could say, yikes, I'm a little upset about what that, but people will just pin themselves and we'll just regroup, and so we never got separated. We never had a problem. And so I'm saying that we've had other faculty travel to, I don't think I'm getting it right, but I'll say Mogadishu, but areas where transportation might even be more challenging. It's certainly not challenging in Japan, but I'm saying that under this kind of the overcoming the unknown. And so if travel anxieties are a part of those unknowns, I would encourage you to not worry about that, right? Because here again, we're in a country, we couldn't speak a word of Japanese. No one had that. There's a fair amount of English. So all these things that you might say or be resistant taking on those, I just want to say, typically, we did have no problem. In my second trip there, we had a student had to go to a hospital. It was not a problem, right? I don't mean to get into the details on that. I'm just trying to share these events under the theme of challenge and how you can say these are problems that could arise, but they just seem to be overcomable. Now, again, Japan, at least going to the hospital, you know that's going to be less of an issue than some places, quite possibly. Anyway, this is just an introduction to the syllabus, right? And so I'm just going to quickly go through what we do, right? And so, as I said, we have this non-denominational chapel. Our site is in that third slide to the right. There's a little kind of linear park along a river. But all this was found out through Google Earth, right? And so, I mean, if you have concerns of these types, it was just amazing between, again, Google Earth and WhatsApp and phone maps and all that how you can communicate and get things done. So anyway, just to show you that, and then just to give you some examples of this is what we do, right? And so you're just seeing kind of examples of chapels that were used. The site was, again, selected by me before the first trip, going and flying over Tokyo to kind of find locations. And so that might not be your problem, but I'm just trying to say these things under kind of the overcoming challenges as to how we can use technology to get these things done. So these are just images of the varying chapels. This is the mosque right here, and so you're just kind of seeing kind of the image. This one was kind of built on the hillside, the students had the option to kind of analyze the site. We had, back to the constructed assemblies, we had to kind of begin to see how these buildings are built. I realize that's not specific to anybody else's problem. Here, kind of identified as the Chapel of Light, right? And so you can see kind of manifestations of sort of architectural outcomes and how call it the pixelization of light, if you like, you know. But in the end, just trying to show these kind of outcomes here. One, you can look at the seemingly possibility. There's a Japanese term called ihiu, which is sort of the idea to explore what either doesn't seem possible or puts you in awe, or these kind of scenarios. The student did some research and found a building, then how it could be done. We're, again, not going to get into that, but these things where it just seems like it couldn't be done, it can be done. And that's what we oftentimes learned in Japan, that things that we don't think about as being possible in this culture, this country, you see are indeed possible in other cultures, in other countries. And so it's quite eye-opening in that regard. So anyway, these are just kind of, again, some of the requirements that in some of the other drawings. And so here, you're just seeing these different outcomes. So, you know, we like to show pictures. We're architects, right? And so we do that. And so then, in the end, you know, it's remiss to not talk about gathering, right? And so that's the last project I'll show you. And so here we are, right? Don't remember. Yeah, somewhere in Japan, I can tell you that much. I want to say it was near Fukuoka, which I did not know about Fukuoka, but here you go. I think we were in an area just outside of it, right? But, you know, it's enjoyable to have these events where you can kind of sometimes wear yourself out, sometimes take breaks, sometimes enjoy. The top center photograph is actually a donut shop designed by an architect that we respected a lot, and so, you know, you had to go there and see. But ultimately, just trying to see, and then here we are visiting with our friends in terms of the kind of the sense of how it can be dense and intense, but actually quite stimulating in that regard. And, you know, just here we are, right, kind of enjoying, or at least trying to kind of overcome a challenge. So that's Japan. So.
Thank you very much for taking us to Japan. You see what I mean? You can travel without even leaving the University of Houston. Although I wish you'd brought some of the donuts from the beautiful donut shop. Thank you all very much for everyone who participated and everyone who visited. Let me just say again, one of the last things you said was so important to me about how what this does is it allows you to kind of gather and see that some things that you thought just weren't possible are possible and are done in different parts of the world. And that makes you realize just what is possible in your own part of the world. And what we try to do at the Institute, what we try to do at the University of Houston is open our students' eyes and minds to those opportunities and those possibilities. So let me just say thank you again for coming. Take a last few minutes and look at any of the posters, talk to any of the colleagues that you haven't yet had a chance to talk to, and go out and go global, go Cougs. Thank you.